Start now.
Yes, yes, yes.
Varsha? Varsha?
Varsha, ready, huh?
What about YouTube? Okay. Yes. Good morning to all. The eyes are the window to your soul by William Shakespeare. With this quote, on behalf of management of Hindustan College of Engineering and Technology, Department of Science and Humanities, and also the members of UIR Club, I welcome you all for this webinar on eye care conservation conversations with the expert. We all know the health of our eyes is critical to overall happiness and well-being. Eyes can capture and interpret more than 1 million pulse signals per millisecond and transmit to the brain. Most of us don't start thinking about eye health until they experience some change in their eyesight. Keeping them healthy is very, very important. Today, we have a good personality, Dr. Shreyas Ramamurthy, consultant, the Eye Foundation, to deliver lecture on eye care conversation with the expert. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, madam.
At this juncture, I am very pleased to welcome our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. K. Karnagaran of our Hindustan institutions. Welcome, sir. My warm welcome to all the faculty members and also the students for this webinar. I welcome you once again, and I'll hear now the section to Dr. K.V. Girija. Madam.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am Dr. K.V. Girija from Science and Humanities Department and the coordinator of UIR Club. Today it is my pleasure to introduce our eminent chief guest, Dr. Shreyas Ramamurthy. His academic record is very high. He completed his MBBS in Coimbatore Medical College from the year 2004 to 2010. Next, he completed his MS in ophthalmology in Aravind Postgraduate Institute in Ophthalmology, Madurai, from 2010 to 2015. He got Fellowship of International Council of Ophthalmology in the year 2014. He got Fellowship in Corneal and Anterior Segment in LV Prasad Eye Institute, Hyderabad, from 2013 to 2015. His area of expertise are general diseases with special interest in keratoconus, laminar corneal surgery, laser cataract surgery, and advanced refractive surgery. His awards and distinctions he won are: he was the gold medalist in the Department of Medicine in his final MBBS. He was awarded with gold medal for MS also in ophthalmology. He has 5 publications in peer-reviewed journals. He presented many papers in various national and international conferences. He is the member of All India Ophthalmic Society, Tamil Nadu Ophthalmic Association, American Society of Cataract and Refractive Surgery. Here now, such a wonderful doctor is with us now. It is a great pleasure to us, doctor. Now I request our Dr. Shreyas Ramamurthy to present his speech. Welcome, doctor.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. At the outset, I would like to thank all the senior faculty of Hindustan College of Engineering and Technology and the UIR Club for having me over. It's testing times for all of us, and I think a good part of academic education over the last couple of years have been online, and this medium has really caught on. In previous talks during COVID times, we've always spoken about what screen time does to our eyes and all the other things. And I think all of us have heard it many times over. Today, I'm trying to talk a little bit about a very pressing issue which is kind of affecting a lot of people around us, and something which is of concern as we are going through the peak of the second wave. And essentially, Tamil Nadu and Western Tamil Nadu in particular, our districts, Coimbatore, Tirupur, neighboring districts, are probably having the highest caseload in the country right now. So one important offset of COVID, which we are getting to see nowadays, is the black fungus. And there's a lot of more misinformation about it than information. And that's why I'm trying to make it as simple and as easy as possible for everyone here. And I'll try to take you all through a few salient points of the black fungus. I hope my screen is visible. And subsequently, I will take you all through certain eye conditions which are getting neglected in the COVID era, primarily because of lockdowns, fear of stepping outside, and all those concerns. So let me try and address some of them, and I'll be happy to take any questions after that. Please feel free to stop me anytime in between and ask any questions. I hope my slides are visible. So the black fungus, we'll address it by the actual name, which is mucormycosis. It is a type of fungus. The first and foremost thing that I would want to say, and possibly the most important 2 words of this entire talk, is that we should not panic. Because mucormycosis, unlike COVID, is not something new. It is something which has been around us, inside us, all around us, in the soil, in the air, inside our own body as commensal organisms for centuries together. It is ubiquitous organism. Why we call it opportunistic is just like tuberculosis. Now, TB also, the bacteria is present everywhere, all around us. For about 40% of the Indian population will have the TB bacteria inside them without having any problem whatsoever for the entire life period. So just like TB, mucormycosis also is present in many people, is present all around us. Only when our immunity is severely weakened, only then does it cause a serious infection. So therefore, it's not something which we need to take sudden or new precautions against like we are doing for the COVID virus. So a little bit more in detail about mucormycosis. So what all does it affect? How do we watch out for it? So it's essentially called rhino-orbital cerebral because it affects the nose and sinus cavities. It affects the eye, the orbital cavity, and it affects the brain, which is cerebral. So what are the risk factors? Who are the people who are prone to getting this black fungus? One, patients who have diabetes mellitus, where especially when it is uncontrolled diabetes mellitus. Diabetic patients or even non-diabetic patients, if they are given a lot of steroid medication, which is being done for certain illnesses, that can also raise the blood sugar and predispose them to such opportunistic infections. People who are under immunosuppressive treatment, people who are undergoing chemotherapy for any cancer treatment could also be people who are at risk for this infection. So why suddenly? Why are we talking about COVID and mucormycosis so much? People think that mucormycosis is a sudden new infection which has come along with COVID. The relationship exactly is not fully established, but there are certain predisposing factors why we are getting this surge in the cases of black fungus. One, COVID very often is not necessarily treated at specialty centers. It might be treated in rural areas, in small semi-urban areas. It might be some forms of treatment just are taken up over the phone. And there is an indiscriminate use of steroids. And a lot of people are immediately after getting COVID, they think, yes, the inflammation has to be suppressed. So they take a lot of steroids. This indiscriminate use of steroids and also a drug called tocilizumab, though that is not being used indiscriminately, that is only being used very sparingly, only when necessary. But both these drugs suppress our immune mechanism. Apart from suppressing our immune mechanism, it also worsens the diabetic status of a person. So a person who's already diabetic, the diabetic status will become uncontrolled. Person who's not previously diabetic also can develop rise in blood sugar. Another very important cause is that many of these patients who are under oxygen therapy treatment for COVID, as you all know, a lot of our hospitals are under a lot of stress, overloaded with COVID patients. There are far more number of patients than the number of beds available. And therefore, this oxygen, which is already under shortage, oxygen beds which are under shortage, are being used at a very high frequency. And therefore, some reusage of certain oxygen cannulas, tubings, and there is a certain water which is present in the humidifier of this oxygen which is delivered to patients. And this water, if it becomes unsterile, all of these can harbor the fungus and could potentially predispose them to mucormycosis infection. One important thing that we must understand about mucormycosis is that it does not spread from person to person. So just because a person has mucormycosis, if you touch them and you touch your nose or mouth or eyes, it is not going to spread from person to person. It is only for a person whose immunity has been severely weakened by either the virus or the treatment, which is like steroids and tocilizumab. Only these people are predisposed to this infection. So what are the early symptoms that we need to watch out for? Most of the time, the nose is the route of entry for the fungal infection, and therefore nasal stuffiness, nasal blockage, foul smell, some bleed from the nose, discharge from the nose, this discharge which could become a little purulent, there can be some blood in it, or it can become black. And then the mucosa, that is the reddish part which is present inside, can look very inflamed. And essentially, mucormycosis is called angioinvasive, that it invades the blood vessel and arrests the blood supply to those areas where it is being supplied. And this causes loss of blood supply in that area and leads to black necrosis. And that's why we get a blackish discoloration in the tissue which is involved, and we call it black eschar. Eye is the next organ which is commonly involved, and we get a lot of eyelid and around the eyes, edema, that is fluid accumulation and swelling. And this swelling can also be present with discoloration of the skin. I'll show you in a subsequent photograph. You can have facial pain, one-sided pain along the face, what seems like a toothache, and constant pain around the eyes could also be present. There can be a drooping of the eyelids. Eyelid gets closed. It's called ptosis. The eyeball itself might be bulging forward, which is called proptosis. These are all slightly more advanced signs of mucormycosis. And then in the later stage, you can have loss of vision and restriction of movement of the eyeballs, which can also lead to double vision. So like I said, this is just where you're seeing inflammation of the eyelid, fluid swelling of the eyelids. You're not able to open them easily. There is also this discoloration, which you see called eschar. And then you have these totally frozen globe in a later stage of involvement. In the very advanced stage, when the brain slowly gets involved, then it also spreads to the other eye. Both eyes can get involved. You can have nerve palsy, that is certain areas of paralysis, altered consciousness, and certain fits and seizures, which can also develop in later stages. Now, this is a stage when treatment is usually unsuccessful. So essentially, it is important that we diagnose early. So essentially, it's a clinical diagnosis most of the time. So whenever patient presents in the setting post-COVID with diabetes and other suspicion, along with these signs which I've spoken about, then we diagnose them as mucormycosis. A MRI with contrast helps in clinching the diagnosis. Apart from that, the mucosa swab can also be taken and cultured to identify the fungus. Treatment is multidisciplinary approach. I won't get into the details. It is a combination of an ENT specialist, an ophthalmologist, eye doctor, and a neurologist and a radiologist. The mainstay is liposomal amphotericin B injection. There was severe shortage of this drug. Slowly it is being increased, and fortunately for us in Tamil Nadu, as we are in the later phase, we had the peak. By the time we start getting more of these cases, amphotericin B will be widely available, which was not the case, unfortunately, in Maharashtra and Gujarat when they were having the peak of infection. Early and aggressive surgical debridement, removal of the infected areas is another important form of treatment for this condition. So how can we prevent it? Not using steroids indiscriminately with the strict advice of your physician who's treating you. And very, very important, if you're already diabetic, to control your diabetes during this period. If oxygen is being administered, like I mentioned, the tubings and the cannula have to be sterilized adequately. The water has to be changed periodically. We must post-COVID. Now, very often people believe I've already got COVID. Now, nothing is going to affect me. I'm fine now. I've recovered from COVID. It is very important to continue wearing masks and maintain safe hygiene practices even after COVID, as it can predispose you to many infections because your immunity has been lowered because of COVID. So it is not just black fungus. You can be predisposed to other infections also. But black fungus, we are talking about it more as it is potentially life-threatening. Betadine mouth gargles, which are commonly available, are also useful. Need not routinely, everybody need not do it. Only if you are post-COVID and recovering with a sore throat, that time, yes, it can be useful. And like I said, having awareness about it and a high index of suspicion, presenting to the doctor early is of prime importance. So having spoken about black fungus, I'll also quickly run you all through 2-3 other common eye conditions very briefly, which also is being neglected during this period. A very important thing with regard to eyesight in some of these problems. Now, none of these problems actually affect a very young age group. I mean, the ones which I'm going to talk about next. They're usually in the middle age, beyond 40. And it is essentially important because if we don't treat and diagnose this condition at an early stage, it can potentially lead to loss of vision. So prevention is better than cure and very much in these conditions, because once we diagnose them early, we can control them and ensure they do not worsen in subsequent stages. So glaucoma is one such condition where essentially because of raised pressure in the eye. Now, just like how we have pressure inside our blood vessels, which we call blood pressure, we have a pressure inside the eye called intraocular pressure. Now, we won't have any symptoms of this disease when we get it. In the early stage, only the peripheral vision starts getting blurred. Normally, if this is your visual field, just in the periphery, it starts getting blurred and concentrically keeps on reducing till the more advanced stage. But the patient by themselves will recognize it only in the advanced stage. In the early stages, they'll not even know or not even realize that they are having glaucoma. So it is extremely important that they present in the early stage. So how do you actually present in the early stage? Nothing. You just, after the age of 40, it's advisable to undergo a routine screening once a year. And when we do a routine examination, in the early stage itself, we'll be able to detect glaucoma and treat it and prevent further progression of glaucoma. So regular screening above age of 40, definitely above age of 50. People who have family history where somebody in the family has had glaucoma before. People who are hypertensive, that is have BP, raised BP. Smokers are all at higher risk of glaucoma. So there's a simple examination called Fields examination which is done. And if we detect glaucoma by using drops or surgery, we can ensure it does not progress further. Just like diabetes, where once you're diagnosed to be diabetic or once you're diagnosed to be hypertensive, you take medication and control it for the rest of your life. Similarly, this pressure inside the eye also through drops and medication can be controlled for the rest of your life. Cataract, as you would all know, is a very, very common condition, affects everyone as we age. Now, cataract is just the natural lens inside the eye which is losing transparency. The reason I'm talking about it here is in the COVID era, we are seeing that a lot of people are hesitant to visit a hospital even when they have some difficulty. Now, that is not necessarily a good thing. Yes, I don't say that we should move out unnecessarily and we should avoid unnecessary contact. But if we have a healthcare problem, avoiding health-seeking tendency will actually make the condition worsen and make it more difficult to treat in the later stage. So with pertaining to cataract, it's not a serious or life-threatening condition. But when we diagnose it in the early stage and operate it in the early stage, it is very, very easy to do the surgery. The recovery is very fast and the patient does not have any difficulty. The very next day, they can get back to their routine activities. The vision is perfect from next day. Whereas with a more advanced cataract, it becomes more difficult to do the surgery. The chances of complications are more. The recovery is slower. And therefore, it's important that we diagnose them at the right stage and treat them. So cataract surgery, if done in the early stage, can just be done with drops. There is no sutures required. Immediate next day, everything is absolutely normal. It can be done either with what we call a phacoemulsification, or more advanced nowadays, we have something called a laser cataract, which can also be used to treat the surgery. Another important condition is diabetic retinopathy. So essentially, diabetes mainly affects, commonly or most commonly affects two organs. One is the eye, the next is the kidney. Because both these organs have a lot of fine, small vessels which get affected in diabetes. In the early stages, again, the patient does not know they have diabetic retinopathy. All people who are diabetic should get eye examination done once every year. And if they are found to be having some diabetic retinopathy, they will be called more frequently. It is important that we diagnose it at this early stage and arrest it before it progresses to this kind of advanced stage and making it more difficult for treatment. So we have a lot of sophisticated scans available nowadays. This is a normal scan of our retina. And whenever there is any fluid accumulation or fluid leakage, like in this condition, which we call diabetic macular edema, it can be diagnosed very easily. We also have something called an angiography, which is available, where we can, just like how in the heart, we are able to detect blocks without actually having to open up or do any surgery. Here also, by just injecting a small dye in our arms, we can actually check where the leakage is, and these areas of leakage can be sealed with a laser. So early stage, just control of diabetes will be sufficient. Later stages, we have injection and laser, and in the more advanced stages, we have to resort to surgery. But our main aim is to prevent it from going to this stage and control it in the early stages itself. So these are the common conditions I wanted to talk to you about, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
I have a doubt.
Yes, please tell me.
So nowadays, if we see like even small children are wearing spectacles more often, like they have far-sighted vision or near-sighted vision.
Sure,
like
yeah.
it's common among these small children nowadays. What do you think is the main core reason for this? And can you suggest few ways to like overcome this situation?
So there are different theories to it, in the sense that there is a rapid increase in the incidence of what we call myopia, that is where people have difficulty in seeing distance. So essentially, it obviously starts in the growing age in children. Few important things might be is that we are possibly also detecting them at an earlier stage. In the sense, previously maybe routine screening was not being done commonly. Nowadays, if you see schools, most schools, we are doing school screening. Basic vision tests are being done to assess their vision, and at an early stage itself, when they have problems, we are detecting them and we are treating them. Secondly, there has been a great shift from outdoor activities to indoor activities. If you see, most children, instead of playing in the ground and field, are now sitting in front of computers or video games and are spending more time in near activity. This has been one of the biggest hypotheses in increasing the power of the eye. So these are the main reasons. Fortunately, by just doing routine screening, we can treat them at an early stage. That is, we can give them glasses. And if they wear glasses, their vision will not get affected. Yes, yearly they will require a checkup till they reach the age of 18, till such time, because in the growing age, the power can keep increasing. And it is important that we check them every year. And if there is a change in power, we change the glasses, and they are required to wear glasses till the age of 18. After 18, it is not that the power goes away, it's just that it stabilizes and usually remains constant. And beyond that, either they can continue wearing glasses or they can undergo laser surgery and completely get rid of the power altogether, which is also an extremely safe and effective option. So near activity is something we can try and reduce, but having said that, it's not easy. Our entire life has changed. We have moved from outdoor to indoor activities more, and obviously our forefathers were into farming and agriculture more and more, whereas now we are a more urbanized population, and we are using a lot more near activity. Even our own classes are happening from computers and phones and laptops. So it's not easy to avoid it, but like I said, early screening and treatment is the key. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Please, sir.
sir, all the students between the age 15 to 22 attending their online classes for last 1 year. Does they have any chances of decreasing eye vision because of watching online classes? If yes, what are the precaution steps you're going to give to the students?
No, so fortunately, there is no major harm in using a computer screen or or using a phone for these purposes. Yes, we want to avoid excessive usage. So at least for recreational activity, we are suggesting avoid using computer and phone as much, like playing games or social media and WhatsApp and other things, which is very excessive. If we can try and reduce it, it is good. Yes, it can lead to some digital strain. Fortunately, none of this is very serious, but it can be nagging, irritating problems like it can cause dry eye, it can cause easy evaporation of our tears, and therefore, when the tear evaporates faster, it leads to lesser tear present inside the eye, and that can cause what we call dry eye. Apart from that, a little bit of visual strain, little bit of weakness and tiredness of the eye muscles, and those things can happen. The change in power can also happen in children, especially in the growing age. Once they have reached the growing age, it won't stop growing after 18 or 19, it won't change. But in the growing age, it can happen. Apart from that, no major issues. Just treatment with lubricants, routine eye checkup whenever you're having a lot of strain is sufficient in treating it.
If you see nowadays there is blue lens glasses available in the market, right? So do you think they're well effective? Like even I use blue lens glasses when using the laptop. So like, do you think it's actually effective or it's just another marketing technique?
What do you feel?
I'm like, okay, I've been using it like for past 1 year.
Is it helping you?
Before, I wouldn't say it's helping or not helping.
Right.
But like, okay, without like bare eyes just watching it, you can like, at least something is there to shield it off.
Correct. So this is what we call a placebo effect. So essentially, whenever, something like this is given, frankly, is there excellent science behind it? Is there a lot of literature saying that these blue filter glasses are a must? Definitely not. 100% no. But are these blue filter glasses going to cause any harm? No, they're not going to cause any harm either. So if you ask me, just because I'm using a computer screen, do I have to mandatorily use a blue filter glass? No, not really. But many people feel comfortable. In the earlier stages, I just used to say, this is humbug, don't use it at all. But very often I saw a lot of patients who kept saying that, doctor, but I feel comfortable using it. I feel that I have less strain using it. And I'm able to use the computer for longer hours. So possibly it just, reduces the amount of light entering their eye. It is reducing the extent of evaporation of tears which could happen. And those kind of small effects which are helping them, in their mindset and giving them an overall placebo effect. But it is not mandatory, and it is not that everyone who's sitting in front of a computer screen has to wear blue filter glasses. It's not a must. But it can be used. There's no harm. There's no side effect.
Sir, which is the suggestive age for the laser surgery? Will it be a permanent cure for the myopia?
Yeah. So essentially, beyond 18 or 19, once the power is stabilized. So when I say stability of power, now very often people at 25 will say that, my power, that day I checked in an optical shop, they said it's 3.5. Today I've come to your hospital, they've said it's 4. Does that mean my power is not stabilized? No. These kind of small variations, 0.5, 0.25, 0.75 can be just accuracy in the measurement itself, which can cause a slightly different power to be given in this thing. So when somebody is checking in a more professional manner, using a little more technology, we have certain other things called autorefractometer and all those things, where once we use all that and check, we are able to detect the power more accurately. So that can cause a 0.5 variation with the glasses which you might have been wearing previously. Does not mean your power is changing. So generally beyond the age of growth, that is around 18 or 19, the power arrests and it does not grow further. The power does not increase after that. So any time after that, laser treatment is perfectly safe. Of all the surgeries performed in the human body, the laser treatment for correcting eye power. So we have 5 or 6 different types of lasers available, along with certain lens options and other things available, 8 options which are there to correct power. And depending on the patient's cornea, depending on the power, we tailor make which treatment they are most suitable for. And they may be suitable for everything, or they may be suitable for 1 or 2. If they are found suitable and given the appropriate treatment, generally the outcomes are excellent. And the question of power coming back. So power can come back if there is a very high power to begin with, or if the patient has a slightly lower corneal thickness to begin with. And for such patients, they're usually told that while the full power may not come back, a very low grade power can come back. And even this low grade power, if it comes back, it can be treated, it can be corrected again. And other than that, the power remains constant, and the patients generally enjoy excellent distance quality vision for the remainder of their life. Of course, age-related things which come because of aging cannot be stopped, and that is a general process anywhere in the body. As because of aging, whatever normal changes happen, that will continue to happen for all of us.
Sir, why sometimes tears comes from eyes without any reason?
So minimal tearing is not really a cause for concern, in the sense some dust particle going into the eye, something which is a small source of irritation. You may not even realize that minor dust particle going into your eye. And the tears are essentially being produced as a reaction to wash away those particles. So that's a normal reaction, and there's nothing to be concerned about. Only when it is excessive, so you might be having some allergy or some minor infection or some other issues, or any block in the ducts, so which could be causing this tearing. And in those cases, just a quick examination will help us identify the problem and treat it accordingly.
Sir, I have a short case study about my grandpa, sir. He is having a 6 years of history diabetes, type 2 induced glaucoma, and he had a bulb needling surgery on left eye 4 months ago, and 2 months of post-surgery prophylactic antibiotic eye drop for left eye, sir, and right eye contained with the latanoprost and benzaldehyde eye drop, sir. Now, problem of the left eye is not rectified, having difficulty in liquid drainage. Again, how can it manage, sir?
Oh, so that's why glaucoma can be a difficult condition, and like you're saying, he must have undergone a trabeculectomy, and that's why this post-trabeculectomy, this needling procedure sometimes is done if the bleb is not good enough. So in those cases, some medication can be added. Further surgery can also be done to reduce the pressure. And once the pressure is controlled, it can be maintained at that level. But of course, periodic and regular checkups are necessary. Depending on the way the glaucoma surgery is there at this current stage, how his eye has responded, there are multiple options which are available, from tubes to further drainage surgeries which are available, which can help in controlling the pressure. There are certain lasers also which are available, micropulse lasers which are available to control the pressure. So depending on the condition, after the examination, we'll be able to help him.
If dryness is a permanent condition, and suggest a diet to control dryness of eyes.
So dryness, the run-of-the-mill dryness. So dryness can either be caused because of 2 major reasons. One, where the tear production itself is affected. That is usually quite rare. Affects in a slightly older age group, usually. And generally, they may be having other comorbid conditions like arthritis and other problems also, which could commonly be present. Need not always be present, could be present. Those conditions require prolonged treatment and lifelong treatment. The other run-of-the-mill dry eye, which many of us face, is evaporative dry eye. Basically, the tear evaporates faster than it is being produced, and therefore we get some dry eye. That is not usually a very serious condition. And using any lubricating eye drop is sufficient in keeping us comfortable. Other than having mild irritation and this thing, it does not cause any major issue or any major visual complaints. And just using lubricating eye drops is sufficient. Diet modification, I mean, it is said that omega-3 fatty acids does help in maintaining preserving the health of the ocular surface, but that is usually present in some green leafy vegetables. If it's their part of the diet, that is sufficient. Nothing special, no additional nutritional supplement is necessary.
Sir,
Based on.
to keep or maintain our body healthy, we are doing some exercise. Similarly, is there any exercise for eyes to reduce the strain, especially during this pandemic situation?
So fortunately, that's not necessary because for the body, if we are leading a sedentary lifestyle, you may not be using many muscles, and therefore, you can tend to put on weight, and you need to exercise to maintain. With the eye, it's constantly being used. Whether you're sitting inside the house, or you're working, or in college, or you're doing anything, it's constantly being used. So it's not a major cause of concern. But yes, occasionally because of eye strain, there might be some tiredness of the muscles, and because of which you may have blurring of near vision, which you've not had before. Your screen may not be very easily visible to you. You will be having a lot of strain in reading, sometimes slight doubling of letters when you're reading. In those cases, it is essentially because of certain muscle weakness which has developed, and that once after testing, if we feel there is a muscle weakness, then there are certain appropriate exercises, certain card exercises which are prescribed to the patient, and only in those conditions those simple exercises have to be done. Other than that, routinely exercises are not necessary as far as the eye is concerned.
Sir, how can we identify increase of power in our eyes, like the initial symptoms for increase in power of our eyes, sir, for the
Just blurring of vision. Your vision is not as clear as it was earlier, especially distance vision. Then that is the easiest sign or earliest sign that your power is probably not stable or has changed, or you were probably not wearing a glass power earlier and you require some power now. So just blurring of vision. And when you have blurring of vision, just getting a routine checkup done is the easiest thing to do.
Sir, as we know that nowadays everything is getting digital and online, so we are giving more and more strain to our eyes. So how can we get a remedy for this, and what kind of release method there so that our stress can be decreased?
No, you're talking about stress to the eye. I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Stress
Yeah.
to eyes.
Yeah, so there is no stress as such. I mean, when I say strain and other things, it's a normal thing. It's just that when you walk for a long distance, your legs can get tired. So similarly, for very very prolonged usage of screen time and other things, I can get tired. So but usually it just refreshes in the next day, and that's why it's not a major problem for any of us. So eye itself there's no stress for the eye just because we're using it more or you're reading more. Nothing like that happens. You can be rest assured, and there's absolutely no problem. But if at all like I said, blurring of vision is there for near or distance, especially for near, then this might be a sign of some muscle fatigue, and at that time we can test and give appropriate measures for correcting that muscle fatigue.
Sir, what is the safe amount of time per day to look at computer, mobile phone or television screen?
There's no scientific limit which has been set. So, I mean, and that is why we are all getting away with it despite using it for 12 hours, 14 hours or 16 hours also. But like I said, I mean, reducing recreational time would be advisable. So obviously when you're working, when you're having to use it as part of your studies, as part of your livelihood, there's no point in somebody saying don't use it beyond this, because you have to, and there's no way we can avoid it. Even as a doctor, when I was studying 16, 17 years back as an MBBS student, I thought that, I have nothing to do with computers. But even now, medical industry is entirely intertwined with technology, and everything has become software oriented, electronic medical records. You don't even have regular sheets anymore. So these screens and computers are a part of our daily life now, and we have to use them, but use them judiciously. At least excess recreational activities, social media can be reduced so that we don't face excessive strain over a period of time.
டாக்டர்,
எஸ் மேடம்.
இந்த மாறுகண்ணு சொல்லுவாங்க இல்லையா, அதுக்கு ஏதாவது பர்மனன்ட் சொல்யூஷன் இருக்கா டாக்டர்?
நல்லாவே வெரி மச் இருக்கு மேடம். இந்த சென்ஸ் மாறுகண்ணுங்கிறது இஸ் கால்ட் ஸ்குவிண்ட். So we have specific surgeries to address squint. Occasionally surgery illama just glass powerலயோ இதுலயும் கூட கரெக்ட் பண்ண முடியும். But most important with மாறுகண்ணு is that நம்ம சின்ன வயசுலயே we have to correct it. That is when children are diagnosed or parents notice the earliest sign that ரெண்டு கண்ணு ஒரே டைரக்ஷன்ல இல்லாம ஒரு கண்ணு வந்து கொஞ்சம் வேற டைரக்ஷன்ல இருக்கு அப்படின்னு நோட்டீஸ் பண்ற immediate timeல we have to take for a checkup, and as early as possible we have to take appropriate measures. There are multiple options which are there based on the reason எதனால மாறுகண்ணு வந்திருக்குங்கிற ரீசனை பொறுத்து, but we have to correct it early.
Okay doctor, is there any exercises by exercise?
So depending on the stage and எவ்வளவு மாறுகண்ணு, how much extent of squint, நம்ம வந்து we can either use exercises, we can use something called patching, we can use certain
Sir, I have heard that during the cataract surgery, patients are asked to open their eyes and also they're not allowed to blink. So what happens if you blink during a cataract operations? And also can you tell me the side effects of a cataract surgery?
So absolutely nothing happens if they blink. Every patient blinks, every patient moves their eye, some of the patients even move their head. So it is up to the surgeon to control it and get it done. It's not a major problem at all. Previously we were putting all these injections, anesthesia and all and doing it. Now we are just using drops. So the patient will not feel any sensation or will not feel pain, but they are fully awake and they are fully can move their eye and move everything. So we ask them to look at a light so that it becomes easier for us to focus and do the surgery. But even if the patient is moving their eye, it's not a major problem. We can do it. We are not telling the patient before surgery that if you move your eye during surgery, something wrong will happen. No, nothing like that. We can definitely go ahead. Yes, little bit cooperation from the patient is required, not a major concern. Side effect from cataract surgery, like any surgery, there are certain complications which can happen during surgery. None of them are very vision threatening. All of them can be easily rectified and can be corrected. Not a major concern. We can go ahead with cataract surgery at an earlier stage if the patient is having at the early stage of visual difficulty itself, because the surgery is easier, faster, and the visual rehabilitation is also better. In the later stage, not that we cannot do surgery, we can do surgery in a very hard cataract, very advanced cataract, and give them good vision also, but it becomes a little more challenging. So if we know we have a cataract, there is no point in delaying it. It's better to get it done early and get it corrected as early as possible.
Sir, why did eyelid start to twitching? How can we make it to stop, sir?
So eyelid twitching is just a very innocuous sign. Nothing major has to be done. There are certain conditions which are associated with eyelid twitching, but they need not need not be there in most people. It can just a symptom of just some muscle fatigue, and usually will resolve spontaneously. Some people may have some calcium deficiency and other issues. Rarely there can be some neural issues which also need to be corrected, but that's very, very rare. That's like sometimes where they have severe twitching that they can't even open their eye. So it's called hemifacial spasm. But other than that, simple eye twitching, nothing needs to be done.
So the pink eye is a major eye defect, sir, or it's a common one, sir?
Pink eye is just another name for conjunctivitis or Madras eye. That's all. It's just a simple infection which will get corrected. It's not a major problem.
I have a doubt.
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
they are asking when they are watching YouTube, they are asking some questions, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Will it be a strain in watching gadgets and
Like we've already discussed, madam, there's no problem in using it. Can definitely please go ahead and use them for your educational purposes. Excessive usage over very prolonged time. Now, what is excess usage? Differs from person to person, right? I mean, for some person doing the same activity, they may get tired faster. Some people will get tired more slowly. So like that, it can be variable. That's why I said for educational work and other purposes, there's no other choice. We have to use them, but can cut down on the amount of time we spend for recreational usage.
Yes. Yes.
Sir,
Yes, madam. Yeah.
sir, sometimes I experience sudden blurry vision after a long sleep. Why that is so, sir?
It's again just after getting up, feeling a sensation of blurring, which usually clears up quite shortly after getting up, is not a major cause for concern.
Sir,
Yes,
so regarding
please.
the organ donation, eye donation, what are the condition we have to do? Suppose if the person are infected with the diabetic mellitus, or in that case, will it be possible to donate the eye donation?
Yes, madam. There's absolutely no restriction.
What are the condition to be?
So
have to be followed regarding eye donation, sir.
It's just that we have to harvest the eye within 6 hours of the person passing away. That's all. Other than that, there is no problem. Anyone and everyone can donate. Very few conditions which are contraindications like HIV and certain hepatitis virus and other things, or certain very advanced malignancy which is spread to the eye also. But those are very, very rare, and most of the time, most patients are eligible for eye donation. Almost everyone is eligible for eye donation. So it's just that the hospital has to be informed within 6 hours of the patient passing, or rather we have to harvest it. So early information is the key.
Even before we have to register it, or sometimes if the passed away, we can immediately inform to the doctors.
Yes, ma'am. So it can be registered, but it's not mandatory to register. Even if it's not been done, just calling the hospital and informing is enough. Immediately, always there is a team on standby for this, dedicated team for this. And as soon as they are informed, they leave immediately, reach the place and do the necessary needful for harvesting. But it's not mandatory for registration. Registration is just that, the next of kin immediately know where to contact. They are already given the details to the, to the person who wants to donate, as well as the immediate family. That's all. That's the only advantage in registration.
Sir, in starting stage of eye strain, what will you prefer the patients to use lens or glasses?
No, so eye strain, if it is because of power, then yes, glasses or contact lenses or anything can be used, or even laser treatment. But if eye strain, like I said, is because of some muscle weakness, we will check that and give certain exercises, and that will also rectify the problem. Power itself will not get rectified with just exercises. We have to wear either glasses or undergo treatment to correct the power.
Sir, is there any age limit for the laser surgery?
There's no upper limit. There's no upper limit, madam. I mean, obviously, when a person gets a cataract, yes, we will do the cataract surgery, and using the lens for the cataract surgery itself, we can correct the power. There are various lenses which are available. But other than that, there is no age limit for the laser treatment. At any age, we can do laser treatment. I mean, lower limit is 18, but anything beyond that, we can do. We have treatments to correct both distance and near power, and which many of us after the age of 40, we will have both distance and near power, and we can correct that also.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Please tell me.
So, like thrice in past 5 years, I had a certain condition where my vision would all of a sudden get partially blurry, which would lead to extreme migraines, and the pain was unbearable for me. When I was taken for a medication and treatment, nothing helped me. But when I slept for like 2-3 hours, the pain totally went away, and even my vision got restored completely. So, do you know what this condition is?
This migraine, as you already said, so it's classic migraine. So anybody who has migraine will, I mean, not everyone has to have blurring of vision, but many people who have migraine will experience vision blurring. We'll see what we call starbursts. We'll see glare around lights. We'll see blurring of this thing around lights, and accompanied with that, soon after that, they'll get headache. These signs which are accompanied with the migraine are called aura, and that's a very, very common aspect of migraine. And either with painkiller or relaxation, it will go away. So it's just a very, very simple, normal component of migraine.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Sir, my question is, can many illness can be detected to an eye test by an eye test, sir? When we are doing an eye
Sorry,
test.
madam, what illness can be detected? Yes, yes.
Can illness be detected? Any other illness can be detected when we are conducting an eye test?
Many conditions can be diagnosed which are associated with the eye can be diagnosed. Like I was saying, common conditions for very often even diabetes and hypertension, we after looking at the eye, we diagnose early stages of diabetic retinopathy or hypertensive retinopathy, and then tell the patient to get tested, and they are found to be diabetic or hypertensive. Similarly, there are other conditions, arthritis, other body problems, which can have certain coexisting condition in the eye, and through that we diagnose and treat. But obviously, it's not that every condition of the body can be detected by just looking at the eyes. But yes, many problems can be detected.
Okay,
There's a question in the chat. Thank you, madam. There's a question in the chat box asking if astigmatism in any meridian can be corrected. Yes, it can be corrected. Any meridian power can be corrected. And my mom always said that reading in dim light causes vision loss. Is that true, sir? Not necessarily. But yes, obviously reading in sufficient light, bright lighting, it makes it easier on the eye, and there's less strain. So it will not lead to vision loss if you read in dim light. It's just that you're exercising your muscle more. And I think most of the other questions in the chat box have already been answered through other questions. So.
Sir, I have a doubt. Sir, how degeneration in macula can cause color blindness, sir?
Yeah, so macula is the central part of the retina which is responsible for vision, very, very important for vision. So color blindness can be there naturally or later acquired, that is if there is a problem in the macula. So if macula is affected, all vision will get affected, and including that color vision also gets affected. And without that, general color blindness can also be there. When we say color blindness, the true color blindness where totally no color is visible is very, very rare. Most of the time, colorblind people are partial in the sense that they will see colors, but they will see color in a different pattern than what a completely normal person sees. They may see in a slightly different shade. That's all. So, but they'll still be able to differentiate one object from the other and other things. So it's not usually not a major concern, and there are certain, depending on the extent of color blindness, there are certain filter glasses which are available which can be tested.
Sir, again.
There are, yeah, tell me, madam, please.
Sir, retina detachment. One of my friend had underwent a RD at the age of 20. So what was the reason she had that at the age of 20? Why can't he previously not able to examine about herself?
So one of the main reasons why we say that people who have minus power, glass power, should get tested every year is not just the power, but also to check the retina. And whenever you visit the hospital, you will notice most of the time that at least once a year or once in 2 years, they'll ask you to put certain drops, dilate the pupil. The vision will be blurred for a few hours. They will check the back of the eye also, called the retina, using a particular lens. This is very, very important. So when people who have minus power, essentially the eye is a little longer, as a result of which they can have certain weak areas in the retina, in the periphery of the retina. So checking this, and if there are certain weak areas in the retina, it can be corrected by a simple treatment called barrage laser. If we don't treat it, occasionally these weak areas can increase and can lead to what we call retinal detachment. So that retinal detachment can be avoided if we treat it at an early stage, if we are checking routinely once a year or once in a year and a half at least, if we have power. And if we do this checkup regularly, we can detect weak areas and correct them. Occasionally, even with routine screening, some new weak area can develop in the intervening period. Very, very rarely can suddenly also lead on to retinal detachment. Fortunately, retinal detachment surgery has also evolved a lot recently in the last decade, and there is a lot of advancements which have come in, and even a patient who presents with a retinal detachment can undergo a successful surgery and vision can be restored in those patients also.
Any other question? Participants? Sir, shall we wind up, sir?
Yes, madam. Please, madam.
Thank you, sir. Vote of thanks, sir. Padma?
Yes, ma'am.
Proceed.
Very good morning, all. I am Padma, Assistant Professor in the Department of Science and Humanities. It's my pleasure and privilege to deliver this vote of thanks. First of all, I thank our management, Principal Dr. Karunakaran sir, all higher authorities, and our department HOD Dr. KP Uma for their support to organize this webinar. Next, I would like to thank our chief guest Dr. Shreya Shramamurthy for his speech of creating awareness on eye care and especially on COVID and mucormycosis. Eyes and vision through them are the most important part of our life. During this pandemic, all children are spending major part of their day in mobile, laptop, PC, etc. for the last 1 year. And just as it is important to keep our body healthy, it is necessary to keep our eyes also healthy. So far, Sir gave lot of advices and recommendations to protect our body. Also, he patiently clarified the doubts of us. It's been highly informative session, sir, and definitely we all will follow your advices. I thank you for spending your precious time for us in your busy schedule. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I also thank our student coordinator, Ms. Varsha, for her technical support.
Madam, we'll have a photo session, madam, with the sir.
Once again, I thank all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, madam. I'll also take this opportunity to thank the management and the senior faculty of Hindustan College of Engineering and Technology for having me over. And I hope this pandemic ends soon and the next time that we meet is in person and not through an online platform like this. Thank you so much once again for having me over. Our public relations officer, Mr. Ravi Kumar, is always there. He's one who was responsible for organizing the session also with the faculty of Hindustan College. And he will be there if at all any queries are there, any further this thing needs to be handled. Please pass it on to him. I'll be happy to answer them at any point of time. During this pandemic, for people who are hesitant to visit hospitals, we also have a video consultation platform available. and it's available on our website or through calling our helpline number. And you can call that and get a video consultation done. For most simple problems can be solved, but anything major, then we can request you to visit the hospital. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much.
Yes, Girija madam, I thank the public relations officer also. Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Ravi Kumar, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a platform for us.
Madam, audio, கொஞ்சம் வீடியோ எல்லாம் ஓபன் பண்ண சொல்லுங்க. Let us have one photo session. All the students are requested and also the faculty along with our doctor to open the video. Just hello, Girija madam, shall we?
வெப்காம் ஒர்க் ஆக மாட்டேங்குது, போன் வர மாட்டேங்குது, உள்ள வெப்காமும் ஒர்க் ஆக மாட்டேங்குது. அப்புறம் இருந்து ட்ரை பண்ணேன். Yes, that is enough. That SH. Mama.
Girija?
Yes. எனக்கு வெப்காம் ஒர்க் ஆக மாட்டேங்குது மேடம்.
அப்படிங்களா? போன்ல வரீங்களா?
அது இந்த போன் வர மாட்டேங்குது எனக்கு. ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ் எல்லாமே அப்பவே எடுத்தாங்க.
Ma'am, sir already left. Doctor already left.
Okay.
டாக்டர் போட்டோ அனுப்பி விட்டுருக்கேன்.
சரி, ஓகே.
பாக்கலீங்களா நீங்க? அனுப்பி இருக்கேன்.
இல்ல அது பார்த்தோம். நம்ம எல்லாருமே அந்த சிங்கிள் போட்டோவை எல்லாமே அட் அ டைம்ல வீடியோ ஓபன் பண்ணி பார்த்தா அது கொஞ்சம் இதா இருக்கும். சிங்கிளா இருந்தது. தட் இஸ் இப்ப ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் இருக்கிறாங்கல்ல, எல்லாத்தையும் ஓபன் பண்ணி ஒரு ஸ்கிரீன்ஷாட் எடுத்து போதும்.
ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் போட்டோ வேணுமா?
வீடியோ ஆன் பண்ணி விடுங்கப்பா. உங்க
Students, all of you turn on your video.
பத்மா, நீங்க பாசிபிளா இருக்கிறவங்க போட்டு விட்டுலாம். ஜஸ்ட் வர்ஷா, கேன் யூ டேக் எ போட்டோ? வர்ஷா
போட்டோ எடுத்து.
யூ ஆல்சோ மா வர்ஷா, யூ ஆல்சோ ஓபன் தி வீடியோ.
ரெண்டு பசங்க, ஒரே ஒரு பையன் ஓபன் பண்ணிருக்கான். மா வீடியோ ஆன் பண்ணுங்க கொஞ்சம் ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ். எடுத்தியா வர்ஷா? நீ வந்துட்டு இப்ப ஃபுல்லா ஸ்கிரீன்ல எடுத்துட்டியா?
எடுத்துட்டியாமா வர்ஷா? Okay, enough ma. Okay, we'll wind up. Thank you Girija. Varsha, thank you ma. Batma, all the students, thank you very much. And you are asking many questions. I am very happy also. Thank you students.
Thank you so much.
Thank you students. Thank you. All interacted well. Very nice. That also will be very happy. Thank you. Varsha, once again thank you for you ma. Okay, thank you pa.
Thank you students. You go and join in your next class students. Students.